often said here on the show, have we not, that we're all living through history. Every single one of us is making our own sort of historical path, you know, whichever way you look at it, however little or however much you're doing, you are forging away and making history in the world. Now, as a lot of people know, I love looking back at history and thinking, how did people get on many years ago, you know? How did they solve the problems that we have today? Because no true problem is new, is it not? It simply just comes around in a different form, doesn't it? Whether that's digitized in print, Marconi, Morse code, whatever you want to call it, everything turns around eventually in one, you know, big circle. And I always look at these things in history and think, okay, you know, what was it like then? You know, what did they do? One thing's for sure though, is whatever you put down in print, whatever you write, whether it's an email, as I say, something in a letter form, or even just a simple post-it note, if you are in power, famous or otherwise, somewhere, somehow, it can get back into the public domain. This has happened, of course, to someone who is really incredibly famous in the historical books of life, none other than Lord Nelson, sitting proudly, of course, on top of his column in Trafalgar Square now for many decades indeed. For sort of younger people, our age group, you know, you'll remember a very famous Blue Peter presenter called John Noakes, who actually scaled up, Nelson's column. Incredible to see back then, you know, because you didn't see stuff like that. And of course, Nelson really goes down in celluloid history simply because not only was he a great historical figure, but then he got to be played by a brilliant actor, Laurence Olivier, alongside his gorgeous and beautiful wife, Vivien Leigh, in the 1940s epic, That Hamilton Woman. But why is Nelson in the news today? He's in the news simply because rare intimate letters written by Lord Nelson, including to his lover, Lady Emma Hamilton, have gone on display for Trafalgar Day. The National Museum of the Royal Navy exhibition in Portsmouth is marking the naval heroes' 1805 victory against the French and the Spanish. Oh yes. Also, it includes a betrothal ring he gave to his mistress, miniature portraits and a meat platter from the HMS Victory. I don't know about eating that meat platter now, do you? I say it's fascinating to think, isn't it, that when he wrote those letters all of those years ago, he could never have thought or even, you know, believed to think that people here in the 21st century would be reading his words, some private, some public. But that is history. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you today is not simply because of Lord Nelson and that big historical day, but also just make your mark yourself, be true to yourself, and more importantly, enjoy everything around you, because we're only here for a short spell, and more importantly, we should make sure that we make some good out of it. A little bit like Lord Nelson and all the others that have gone before us that truly make up our wonderful world history. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.